الله الرحمن الرحيم إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله أما بعد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم لقد أرسلنا رسلنا بالبينات وأنزلنا معهم الكتاب والميزان ليقوم الناس بالقسط. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in Surah Al-Hadid verse 25, indeed we have sent our messengers لقد أرسلنا رسلنا بالبينات with clear proofs وأنزلنا معهم الكتاب and we have sent with them scriptures والميزان and the just balance. Why? ليقوم الناس بالقسط, that mankind will keep up justice. I want to begin by welcoming everybody with Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. May the peace and the blessings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala be on all of you inshallah. Today, as the brother has said, we're here to discuss the life of Isa ibn Maryam alayhi salam. And he said he's going to give me some nudges. I'm going to apologize in advance. I think it's a little unfair to give a speaker 30 minutes to discuss about Isa alayhi salam, one of the greatest prophets. So I'm going to apologize in advance if I step over or go over my time. But I want to get straight into it, and I want to discuss why should we talk about the lives of the prophets, the lives of the Anbiya. And in particular, why should we look at the life of Isa? Firstly, when we look at Quran, what we find in Quran is a huge part of Quran is dedicated to the lives of the prophets. And many of them are mentioned by name in Quran. And if you look at Musa alayhi salam, he's mentioned in Quran over 100 times. And it is said that the Quran could have become the story of Musa because he's mentioned so frequently. Isa alayhi salam is mentioned in Quran over 20 times. So the question we have to ask ourselves is, why is this the case? Why does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mention them so frequently? Why is this the case? And not only that, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He chooses what to say about them. He specifically states certain things about them in Quran. When we look at this Quran, what we have to realize is that it contains within it, it has within it, everything that we need for hidayah. Everything that is related to guidance is within Quran. This is what the Quran was revealed for. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in Surah Al-Imran, هُدًى لِلنَّاسِ, it's a guidance for mankind. And in the early verses of Surah Baqarah it says, هُدًى لِلْمُتَّقِينَ, it's a guidance for those who are muttaqeen, who are pious. So when we look at Quran, and we look at the lives of the Anbiya, and we look at the life of Isa alayhi salam, we must look at it within that context and that framework. Why and how does Isa alayhi salam's life, what guidance can we take from it, what lessons can we take from it to apply to our lives today, like the Buddha said. How can we apply the lessons from Isa alayhi salam's life to our struggle today? How can we apply the lesson from his life to become successful Muslims today? To pleasing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala today? This is the task that we have been given. How can we do that? And this, when we look at Isa alayhi salam's life, this is what we must look at. The second reason why we must look at the life of Isa is because of the time, it's Christmas. And also because, sometimes we say, this thing has divided the ummah. The ummah has been divided because of this reason. But if you look at Isa alayhi salam, you can almost say, he's not someone that's divided the ummah, but he's divided mankind. He's divided the whole of Bani Adam. So you have the Jews, you have the Yahud on one extreme, who said that he was born out of zina. A'udhu billah. They rejected his message, and they even plotted to kill him, which I'll discuss later. On the other hand, you have the Nasara, you have the Christians. What did they say? They attributed to Isa that which he never claimed. They said, he is the Son of God. He is God. A'udhu billah. And then you have the Muslims, describing Quran as al-wasat, the ummah of the middle way. We have the balanced view. And we have so much conviction in what we believe in Isa. Why? Because it's from Quran. And it's from Hadith. And we have conviction in that. And we know that this is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and it can be proven. So it's important to set out the facts. What does Islam say about Isa, his birth, a few stories from his life, and his ascension to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So the birth of Isa alayhi salam. His birth is mentioned in a beautiful surah of Quran. And I recited this surah in the beginning, and I did no justice to it. Wallahi, go home and listen to this surah. This Quran, it has an amazing magic about it. When it's recited, many of us here in this room, we might not understand the words within the Quran. But yet, when it's recited beautifully, it gives you goosebumps. When I listen to Surah Maryam, it gives me goosebumps. It can make the hair at the back of your neck stand. It can even bring us to tears, even though we don't understand the word of it. This is the magic of Quran. And when this is the same surah that was recited to An-Najashi. When the companions of Rasulullah were escaping persecution in Makkah, they went to Abyssinia and they went to An-Najashi. And the Quraysh at the time tried to create some mischief. And they said to An-Najashi, the Negus, have a word with them about Maryam. See what they say about Maryam. He's thinking he's clever, he can catch them out and they can be expelled. So he said, okay, tell us what you say about Maryam. And Jafar ibn Abi Talib stood up, and what did he say? He recited the surah, the ayat from Surah Maryam. And then Najashi was brought to tears. And his priests were brought to tears. This is the surah that I'm referring to. And it softened his heart, he accepted Islam, and he gave them protection. Just a quick point about Maryam alayhi salam. Who is she, and what is her status in Islam? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in Quran says, Inna Allah hastufaki wa taharaki ala nisa al-alameen. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has chosen her, has purified her above all of the women of the world. This is the status of Maryam alayhi salam. When she was young, she had a separate quarters in the masjid for herself, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would provide her rizq. She would get autumn fruits in the summer, and she would get summer fruits in the autumn. And when the Prophet Zakaria alayhi salam would come, and he would see it, he'd be surprised. He's like, what's going on here? Maryam alayhi salam would say, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives rizq to whom He wills. It's easy for Him. So it shows you that she always had tawakkul in Allah. She's the same woman mentioned in the hadith that amongst the 4 greatest women in Islam. And the hadith also indicate that amongst the 4, she is the highest. This is Maryam alayhi salam. So what does the surah say? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in verse 16 of Surah Maryam, وَاذْكُرْ فِي الْكِتَابِ مَرْيَمَ إِذْ انْتَبَذَتْ مِنْ أَهْلِهَا مَكَانًا شَرْقِيًّا. And mentioned in the book, Maryam, when she withdrew in seclusion from her family to a place facing the east. So Maryam alayhi salam, she was in Baytul Maqdis in Jerusalem, and she went towards the east. فَاتَّخَذَتْ مِنْ دُونِهِمْ حِجَابًا فَأَرْسَلْنَا إِلَيْهَا رُوحَنَا فَتَمَثَّلَهَا عَلَيْهَا بَشَرًا سَوِيًّا. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says she placed a screen before them, meaning she was in seclusion from them, she was away from them. And then we sent our ruh. Who is ruh? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is referring to Jibreel alayhi salam. And he appeared before her in the form of a man. So she's by herself, the strange man appears, this is Jibreel, but she doesn't know this. Maryam, being a pious woman, being a chaste woman, is frightened and is afraid. And look at what she says. She says, قَالَتْ إِنِّي أَعُوذُ بِالرَّحْمَنِ مِنْكَ إِن كُنْتَ تَقِيًّا. She says, أَعُوذُ بِالرَّحْمَنِ, I seek refuge in Allah, the most gracious. إِن كُنْتَ تَقِيًّا, meaning, stay away if you fear Allah. Because she is worried, she's frightened, she's a pious woman. Jibreel responds, he says, قَالَ إِنَّمَا أَنَا رَسُولُ رَبِّكَ لِهَبَ لَكِ غُلَامًا زَكِيًّا. Now it starts getting worse for Maryam. He says, I am a messenger from your Lord to announce to you a gift of a righteous son. So she's by herself, she's in seclusion, all of a sudden a man comes and tells her he's a messenger from Allah and that she's going to have a son. What's going through her mind? Can you picture, can you imagine? How is this going to happen? What is he talking about? And this is exactly what Maryam alayhi salam, she said. She says, قالت إني يكون لي غلام ولم يمسسني بشر ولم أكن بغيا. She said, how can I have a son when no man has touched me? I have never been with a man. I am not married. And she says, nor am I baghiya, meaning she's not a woman who's unchaste, a woman of ill repute, a woman who does those kind of things. How is this going to happen? And Jibreel alayhi salam responds by saying, قَالَ كَذَلِكَ قَالَ رَبُّكَ هُوَ عَلَيَّ حِيٍّ. Beautiful. He says, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, this is easy for him. This is easy for me. If Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants to create Isa alayhi salam without a father, this is easy for him. All Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has to do is kun fayakun, be, and it is. وَلِنَجْعَلَهُ آيَةً لِلنَّاسِ وَرَحْمَةً مِنَّا وَكَانَ أَمْرًا مَقْضِيًّا. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, we wish to appoint him as a sign to mankind and a mercy from us, and this is a matter which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has already decreed. a point about the birth of Isa and the virgin birth of Isa. Whenever we approach Quran, or whatever is mentioned in Quran, we accept it with confidence. We don't shy away from it. But in today's reality, what we find is some people are very apologetic. They can't understand how is it that Allah makes things happen in a certain way. They can't intellectualize it. They can't rationalize it. They think, how can this be? How can a man be born without a father? So what do? They twist the text to conform to the pressures of society. What a strange time that we live in. Islam is seen as strange today. The thing that should be seen as most common is seen as strange today. So if someone was to come to any one of you and ask you, how was Isa alayhi salam born? We would all say he was born without a father by the will of Allah. And we would say that with confidence. We wouldn't shy away. We wouldn't be like those who reject the virgin birth. And let's expand the point to something that's more familiar. Not many of you might not might not have discussions about Isa alayhi salam and his virgin birth. But you might have a discussion about segregation. Why are women there? Or why are the men there? This is strange. Why do you guys do this? Are you going to twist the text? Or are you going to confirm what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says? What about the Sharia? What about the hudud? What about the punishments of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Are you going to twist the text because of the pressure? Or are you going to say what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says? The best example, Aisha radiallahu anha. She was married to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam at the age of 6. Some narrations say 6. And she consummated the marriage at the age of 9. Today you have certain brothers that say, no, actually the hadith says 18. Twisting the text to conform to reality. What we do is, we stick to what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, and we say it with confidence, and we try to explain it. With hikmah. Ud'u ila sabili rabbika bil hikmah. We do dawah with hikmah, with beautiful preaching. So we must stick to what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says. Maryam alayhi salam then returns with the baby, and now imagine, she's going back to her people, and she's got this child. It's not something that you can explain through naturalistic means. Imagine she goes back and says, yeah, I saw a man, he breathed over me, suddenly my stomach grew, and 9 months later, yeah, this is the baby. It's not something that you can explain to people. They're going to make it into a joke. And that's exactly what the people did. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knew this. He knew this. And He said to Maryam alayhi salam, keep a fast. Do not speak to anybody. And if anybody asks about the baby, point to the baby. Again, this shows you the tawakkul that Maryam alayhi salam had in Allah. Her honor is going to be attacked. Her dignity, her respect is going to be attacked. And at this critical moment, she's told to be silent, not to speak. How is she going to defend herself? Maryam alayhi salam goes back to her people, and that's exactly what happens. They say, what have you done? What have you brought? لَقَدْ جِئْتُ شَيْئًا فَرِيًّا. He said, this is something unheard of. How could you have done this? And they ask her, Allah says in the Quran, يَا أُخْتَ هَارُونَ مَا كَانَ أَبُوكِ امْرَأَ سَوْءٍ وَمَا كَانَتْ أُمَّكِ بَغِيًّا. O sister of Harun, your father was not a man who used to commit adultery, nor was your mother an unchaste woman. You don't come from a bad family. Why did you do this? How did you do this? And then what did Maryam alayhi salam do? فَأَشَارَتْ بِهِ إِلَيْهِ. She pointed to the baby. Now, picture this moment. Imagine this moment. This is a woman who Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has raised her status, has raised her rank. She's coming back to her people. They're going to attack her. They're going to attack her honor and her dignity. What is one of the most important things for a Muslim? It's our honor, our dignity, our respect. And especially for our sisters. This is something important to them. In this society, lewd behavior, illicit behavior, acting immorally, it might get you famous. It might make you money. But for a Muslim, we protect this, we cherish this, we keep this and safeguard it. So this is being attacked. Who is going to defend her? Who's going to defend the honor of Maryam alayhi salam? She can't speak. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ordered her to point to the baby, فَأَشَارَتْ بِهِ إِلَيْهِ. The baby will speak. Isa alayhi salam will defend her honor. قَالُوا كَيْفَ نُكَلِّمُ مَنْ كَانَ فِي الْمَحْلِ سَبِيًّا. They said, how can we speak to a child who is in the cradle? Again, mocking her. How can we do this? They understood what she meant. How can we do this? And what did Isa alayhi salam say? What were the first words that Isa alayhi salam said? قَالَ إِنِّي عَبْدُ اللَّهِ آتَانِيَ الْكِتَابَ وَجَعَلَنِي نَبِيًّا. إِنِّي عَبْدُ اللَّهِ. I am the servant of Allah. We are the slaves of Allah. I have been given scripture وَجَعَلَنِي نَبِيًّا, and I am a prophet. And he defended the honor of his mother. And he protected his mother. This is what Isa alayhi salam did. A question and something for all of us to think about. Something more important than our personal honor is being attacked today. If any one of you had a mother who was attacked, you would all stand. But something more important than the honor of our mother is being attacked. Let me give you an example. al-Mu'mineen Aisha radiallahu anha. When people say bad things about her, when a book is written about her, who in this room will stand to defend her? When people attack Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam and make accusations against him, who will stand to defend him? When people attack Islam, who's going to stand to defend Islam and convey the word of truth for Islam? At the time of Maryam alayhi salam, it was Isa. Allah gave the ability of speech to Isa in the cradle. We all have the ability of speech. Who's going to speak up? We all need to keep that in our minds. Okay, a few stories from the life of Isa. Right from the beginning, this virgin birth, it sets the scene. It sets the scene. The scholars of the Jews, the scholars of Bani Israel, were the chosen people at the time, were the Muslims at the time. Rather than being amazed by the virgin birth, they became fearful. And they started rejecting him from day one. Because these people were twisting their religion. They were making halal haram, and they were making haram halal. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions this in Quran when He says, you took your priests and your lords, your rabbis as gods. Because they were deciding halal and haram. So when Isa alayhi salam came, they became frightened. And they became fearful. And they started speaking against him and campaigning against him. And we see from a young age, Isa alayhi salam was given many miracles. And there's many incidents narrated. So one example is when he was playing with the kids, and it's mentioned in the Quran. He was playing with kids and he told them, this is what your mom has prepared for you at home. Whether it's meat, chicken, or whatever they used to eat. This is what your mom has, it's a bit of random information to give, but this is what your mom has created for you. Or made for you, sorry. They said, this is what your mom has hidden at home. This is what your parents have hidden at home. And then the kids, they would go back home and then they would say to their mother, is this what you've cooked? Is this what you have hidden? And then they would say, yeah, how do you know? Isa alayhi salam told us. Isa alayhi salam told us. And then, rather than being amazed, they'd become frightened. And then the scholars of Bani Israel, they would say, stay away from him. Keep your children away from him. He will ruin them. Rather than being amazed, they were fearful. Another story, from the age of 11 and 12. He was late coming home. His mother's waiting for him. It's the late hours of the evening. Where is he? He's in the place of worship of the Jews, the masjid if you like. He's debating with the scholars. His mum comes and finds him this, what are you doing? He's debating with the ulama of Bani Israel and he's only 11, 12, and he's speaking the word of truth. He's standing firm on the truth. And then he apologizes to him and says, I got into this discussion and was always respectful to his mother. But again, they rejected him. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave Isa alayhi salam many miracles in his life. And the mu'jiza, the miracles that are given to the prophets are always in line with the people of their time and the reality, and it caters to their reality. So Musa alayhi salam was sent to the people of Egypt, and what were they famous and what were they good at? Magic. The magicians were the high class of society. So when Musa alayhi salam came with the stick and came with the staff and chucked it, and it became the snake, the priests, the magicians knew that what they had were party tricks, and what Musa alayhi salam had was from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this helped them accept Islam. Even when the arms were sawed off, they didn't leave it. So a miracle is something powerful. And Isa alayhi salam was given many. And the people of his time were advanced in medicine, chemistry, physics. So Isa alayhi salam was given the ability to cure those people who were ill, those people who were blind. He was able to bring the dead back to life. So there's a story mentioned in Surah Al-Imran, where Isa alayhi salam would grab some clay, mold it in the shape of a bird, and then he would breathe into it, and then it would come alive. Can you imagine that? Right in front of the eyes of Bani Israel. Imagine me grabbing that tissue, making it in the form of a bird, and then all of a sudden I breathe on it, and then it comes alive. Right in front of their eyes. In another example, the scholars of Bani Israel challenged him to bring the dead back to life. They said, bring back the son of Noor. So he took him to the grave, and then he actually resurrected the son of Noor alayhi salam. And when Noor alayhi salam was his son was resurrected, he had grey hair. And the scholars of the time, they knew that Noor alayhi salam and his people didn't have grey hair.
So they started asking him, why is it that you have grey hair? And the son of Nuh responded by saying, the last person I thought that would resurrect me would be a prophet. I thought this was the final resurrection. I thought this was the day of judgment. The stress and the fear of being raised on the day of judgment alone turned my hair grey. This is a scary day. The day when the mothers will drop their babies from their womb. We're going to be running around in chaos. And that alone turned him grey. So again, right in front of the eyes of Bani Israel. Another example was him healing those who were blind. But not modern type of medicine. All he would do is put his hands over their eyes and then they would see. If they couldn't speak, he put their hand over their mouth and then they could speak. If they were ill, he would just touch them and they'll become better. Right in front of the eyes of Bani Israel. And yet, they rejected. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, إِنَّ فِي ذَلِكَ لَآيَةً لَكُمْ إِن كُنتُم مُؤْمِنِينَ. Surely therein is a sign if you believe. But what did the people do? They rejected. فَلَمَّا أَحَسَّ عِيسَى مِنْهُمُ الْكُفْرِ. And Isa sensed kufr within them, sensed disbelief. He sensed that. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, when he came to know of their kufr, came to know of their disbelief, قَالَ مَنْ أَنصَارِ إِلَى اللَّهِ. He asked, who will be my helpers in Allah's cause? And who responded? قال الحواريون نحن أنصار الله آمنا بالله واشهد بأننا مسلمون. The Hawariyin responded. The Hawariyin were the people who accepted the message of Isa. All of the prophets had people who accepted their message and helped them in the da'wah. For Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, it was the companions, it was his Sahaba. For Isa alayhi salam, it was the Hawariyin. And what did they say? We are the helpers of Allah. We believe in Allah. And we bear witness that we are Muslim. وَاشْهَدْ بِأَنَّا مُسْلِمُونَ. So Isa alayhi salam was in a struggle from day one. And the people en masse rejected him. And a few accepted his message. And the people of the time were unhappy with him because he was challenging their authority. So what did they do? They tried to debate him. They tried to slander him. When all of that didn't work, they turned to force. And imagine this, they turned to the kafir ruler of the time. They turned to the Roman king, who was not one of Bani Israel. They turned to him and they lied about Isa. They gave him false information so that the king could order Isa alayhi salam to be killed. Imagine, the scholars, the ulama of Bani Israel go to a kafir to say, kill our prophet. We've had enough of him. He's too much for us. We can't handle him. Kill him. So the Roman king then sends a decree and orders for him to be killed by crucifixion. What a horrible way to die. Imagine being hung on a piece of wood just by your own body. Nails in your hands, bleeding, a crown of thorns, your feet attached to a piece of wood, bleeding, just hanging there for hours and hours and hours until you bleed to death. This is what they had in store for their prophet, for Isa alayhi salam. And there's a narration narrated by Ibn Abbas, who says when Isa alayhi salam came to know of this, he gathered his disciples in a room and he asked, who amongst you will sacrifice for me and Allah and will take my place? Who stood up? The youngest amongst them stood up. Isa alayhi salam told him, sit down. Again he asked, who amongst you will take my place, will sacrifice for me? Who stood up? The youngest amongst them stood up again. For the third time, they asked, who amongst you will stand up and take my place, will sacrifice for me? The youngest amongst them stood. And Isa alayhi salam appointed him to take his place. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave the resemblance of Isa onto this man. And then when the Romans came, they thought that this was Isa alayhi salam, and they took him, they crucified him, and he was the one that was killed. In another narration, it is said that one of the Jews was made to look like Isa, and he was killed. And I've heard one more, where they say many of them looked like Isa, but one of them eventually pointed to himself and said, I am Isa, and they took him. Regardless of the detail, the main point is, he did not die. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala raised Isa alayhi salam and took him to the heavens. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions this in the Quran. He says, وَمَا قَتَلُوهُ وَمَا صَلَبُوهُ وَلَكِنْ شُبِّهَ لَهُمْ. Neither did they kill him, nor did they crucify him, rather it was made to appear so. This is what they thought. And they actually boasted about it. We've just killed the Prophet of God. One important lesson to take from this point here. You see in Islam and you see in history that the people who stand for the truth and the people who give the vitality and the impetus to the da'wah and struggle is always the youth. Remember some of the names during the time of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Musab ibn Umair, Abdullah ibn Masud. These are the people who stood up. Even Abu Bakr was one of the old members of the people. He was only 37. So again today, in today's struggle, who's going to stand up? Who's going to give the impetus and the drive and the strength to the da'wah? And who's going to convey it? It has to be the youth. It has to start with the youth. I know some of you guys are also like borderline youth and like to stay within that boundaries, but inshallah, we're all youth. Let's stand and let's convey this message. A few concluding points. We see from the beginning, Maryam alayhi salam and Isa, they struggled in the path of Allah. And they stayed steadfast. And they didn't have any resistance to what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wanted. So they struggled, they had a life of struggle. Now as soon as I mention struggle, and I mention Islam, what does everybody think? A poor man, no money, no clothes, or battered clothing, doesn't have a good job, doesn't have a nice house. We don't want to mess up struggle and sacrifice. When I say struggle, what do we mean? Struggling, when I refer to struggle, I'm talking about the battle between haqq and batil, between truth and falsehood. And this is a battle that will take place till Yawm al-Qiyamah, until the Day of Judgment. And we don't have a choice. If we are Muslim and we claim that we're Muslim, we have to be part of the struggle. Maryam alayhi salam, Isa alayhi salam was part of the struggle. From day one, they accepted that. They recognized that. So when Maryam alayhi salam, when she was told, do not speak when you go to the people, she could have said, no, why should I do that? I should speak, they're attacking my honor. But she didn't speak. Maryam alayhi salam, when she had the baby, she could have gone somewhere else. But she realized that this was part of the struggle. We need to adopt that same attitude that these two people had to our struggle today. Second point. What enabled Isa alayhi salam to be so steadfast? Why was he able to continue even though people rejected him as a whole? They say that every prophet was sent to his people and Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam was sent to the whole of mankind. Isa alayhi salam's people were people who loved the dunya. They became attached to the dunya. This was the people of Isa alayhi salam. And they had no spiritual link. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had to send them a prophet who had detachment from the dunya, who hated the dunya, who only loved Allah and only yearned for the akhirah. He had a very simple life, simple clothing, simple food, struggled in the way of Allah all his life. This was Isa alayhi salam. And again, we need to have that attitude. And this is perfect for our reality living in the West. How many of you have invested so much in this dunya? We are told, live in this world as though you're a traveller. Live in this world as though you're a guest. In a hadith mentioned, Ad-dunya sijnul mu'min. This world is a prison for the believers. How many of us have opened up that prison and made this paradise? How many of us have put all our eggs in one basket and just saving everything for this dunya? There was a scholar at the time of one of the hadiths, and a man approached, the hadith approached him, his name was Abu Hazm. He said, why is it that we hate death? Why is it that we hate death? And the scholar replied by saying, you do not like to go from what is constructed to what is destroyed. What do you mean by that? He means, you spent all of this time building this dunya, constructing this dunya, your house, your car, your job, your wife, your kids, all of this. And you've done nothing for the akhirah. So you've destroyed your akhirah. Why would you want to leave what is constructed to go to what is destroyed? Do not put all your eggs in one basket. Think about the akhirah and adopt the attitude of Isa alayhi salam. A final point, just a small story about Isa alayhi salam. One time he was praying at the edge of the cliff. And the shaitan came to him. And he said to him, you believe that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has decreed everything. You believe that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has a say in everything and has decreed all of the things that exist and that have happened. Do you accept that? Isa alayhi salam said, yes. No, this is what we believe. And then he then asked him, said, okay, if that's the case, why don't you jump off this cliff? And while you fall, then just say, whatever Allah decrees, that's what will happen. If you really believe that, then jump off the cliff. Prove to me you believe that. Isa alayhi salam responded with the most beautiful response. He said, O you who is cursed. It is not the believers or the worshippers who test Allah. It is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala who tests the believers. Today we're in a test. Today we have a test. So we have to stand up and be accounted. And we have to be part of the struggle. Jazakumullahu khairan wa akhiru da'wana and alhamdulillahi rabbil alamin.
Jazakallah khair for that discussion. Just two things before we go to the break. Just to reiterate that, please do bear in mind the difference between when we're talking about sacrifice and struggle. Everybody's sacrifices can be different. It might be time, wealth, health, all of these things. Or it could be a combination of them. But what we're talking about here is the struggle. Every Muslim has a struggle. All Muslims, they can have different types of sacrifices, but the struggle is the same, which is truth versus falsehood. We're talking about what did Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed for us to be guided by, and what are we facing in society that is saying to us, right, leave your guidance and refer to this. So this is all about abiding by what Allah has revealed to us, conveying this, protecting this deen of Islam, and just really always being at the forefront of this, inshallah. So Jazakallah khair.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم نحمده ونصلي على رسوله الكريم أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله أما بعد السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. For the next few minutes I'll speak about the return of Isa alayhi salam, and naturally this particular topic always people find interesting, for want of a better phrase. It's always something people like to talk about. Stories about Isa alayhi salam, Imam Mahdi alayhi salam, and the Dajjal, and the signs before the Day of Judgment. This is something which always interests people. And everybody likes to know what's going to happen in the future. Some people like to think they know when it's going to happen. To the extent that if you spend a few minutes on Google, you find that some people can give you the birthday of Imam Mahdi, and some people can give you the exact year of when Isa alayhi salam is going to return, as if they've got their calendars all fixed up in Google, connected to a divine source. So they've got all the dates. I'm not going to claim to give you any dates or fixed times, but merely just go over some of the hadith and some of the points about the return of Isa alayhi salam. One other point which arises when this topic is discussed is, everybody knows when Isa alayhi salam returns, there will be peace on earth. There will be no fighting. The Jews and the Muslim and the Christians, there will be no Jews and Christians anymore. Everybody will be Muslim. And peace will return, and all the problems will be fixed. All the problems we have today, Palestine, Kashmir, Iraq, Afghanistan, all the problems, poverty, hunger, starvation, all these problems will be fixed. So people come with the attitude, let's just wait for Isa alayhi salam. Why do we need to break our backs? Why do we need to trouble ourselves? When you were kids, you had Jim will fix it. For the grown-ups, you got Imam Mahdi will fix it. Leave it, you don't have to do anything. So this is one point, inshallah, we're going to address. Now, the return of Isa alayhi salam and the role of this ummah is linked. The return of Isa alayhi salam and the role of this ummah is linked. And I just want to spend a minute or two explaining what the role of this ummah is and how it is linked to the return of Isa alayhi salam. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions in the Quran, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم, كنتم خير أمة أخرجت للناس تأمرون بالمعروف وتنحون عن المنكر وتؤمنون بالله. Allah says in the Quran, كنتم خير أمة أخرجت للناس, that you are the best nation, the best ummah that has been brought out of mankind. Because you enjoy the good, because you forbid the evil, and because you believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes a number of points here, that you are the best ummah from the whole of mankind. Because why? You enjoy the good, you forbid the evil, you believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now one point to note, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran that you are the best nation brought forth from mankind, we're not talking in comparison to the different nations that may exist today. We're not talking about that the Muslims are better than the Chinese, that the Muslims are better than the Indians, the Muslims are better than the Africans, or the Muslims are better than the Europeans, or the Muslims are better than the Christians. Allah's not talking about this. What Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying is that this ummah is better than the ummah of Isa alayhi salam, the ummah of Adam alayhi salam, better than the ummah of Yusuf alayhi salam, Ibrahim alayhi salam, Nuh alayhi salam, Yaqub alayhi salam, Idris alayhi salam. And you can list all the anbiya that have gone before you, and all the people that believed in them. And Allah says, you are better than all those nations that came before you. That is the height of Allah's accolade for this ummah. That is the height of Allah's accolade for this ummah, that you are the best nation. And there are many narrations, when you look back into the books of tafsir and commentary on ahadith, that indicate that all the previous anbiya were jealous of this ummah. Or rather, the correct word is envious. The previous prophets knew about the qualities of this ummah. And one narration which is often quoted in the masajids when the imams give their khutbah is a dua Isa bin Maryam alayhi salam made to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that I want to return in the ummah of Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. They say that all the anbiyas were given a dua which Allah will accept, a special dua. And they say that Isa alayhi salam used it to say that I want to come back in the ummah of Muhammad. Now some people may ask, why did Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give such a high accolade to this particular ummah of Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, and that he didn't give to the previous? They also believed in the tawheed of Allah, they believed in their messengers, they sacrificed and they struggled. So what's different? One thing possibly we can point to is a hadith of the Prophet ﷺ when he said that Allah appointed the Anbiya to rule over the people. And when one prophet died, Allah would replace another. And Rasulullah said ﷺ, after me there are no more prophets, after me there will be khulafa. Meaning that the authority to enjoin the good and forbid the evil was transferred from the prophets to mortal human beings. So the job of this ummah is on par with the prophets to enjoin the good and forbid the evil. And the practical way to enjoy the good and forbid the evil is to have authority. You know the hadith we often hear, which says that if you see a munkar, stop it with your hand. And if you can't, stop it with your tongue. And if you can't, then hate it in your heart. And in some narrations, it says after this there is not even the seed of iman. And in other narrations it says there is no iman in a person. But the hadith agree that stop it with your hand. And what that means is stop it with force, stop it with authority. So it means the correct way and the first way to forbid the evil is to have authority. If you have authority, you can forbid the evil. If you have authority, you can enjoin the good. And this is what the prophets did. They had authority. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala transferred it to us. Today, unfortunately, we lack that authority. We are unable to enjoin the good and forbid the evil like we are supposed to. And this is something the previous Anbiya knew about this ummah. And they were envious. But what is this ummah? What is so special about this ummah? So coming back to Isa alayhi salam. Without authority, you are not able to enjoin the good and forbid the evil. When Isa bin Maryam alayhi salam returns, he will have the authority to enjoin the good and forbid the evil. He will have the authority to bring the disbelievers to Islam. He will have the authority to solve the problems. And hence it gives rise to this question, why should we bother about working for authority today when Allah has promised that the authority will return? So how do we understand this? Allah has promised us something. What Allah has promised us is going to be true. But that doesn't take away what responsibility we might have. Let me explain. We just, in the month of Muharram, and we know Muharram is in the Islamic calendar is because it starts by the Hijrah. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam was guaranteed protection by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Guaranteed protection. When he left Mecca, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guaranteed him protection. What did he do? What did the blessed Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam do? First, he went to see Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu anhu in the middle of the day when everybody was sleeping, and he covered his face. So he tried to protect himself and he went to see Abu Bakr. When he got to Abu Bakr Siddiq's house, he said to Abu Bakr Siddiq, he goes, if there are people in your house, tell them to leave. Abu Bakr Siddiq said, in my house is my family is your family, meaning you can trust them. He goes, okay. Then they made a plan. They made a plan to escape and make hijrah. They made a plan that they will hide for 3 days in a cave. They made a plan that the son of Abu Bakr Siddiq will bring them news every day to keep them informed where the Quraysh were looking for them. They made a plan that the slave of Abu Bakr Siddiq will come every day with food and milk. They made a plan that Abu Bakr Siddiq's slave will come with the goats grazing outside Mecca to wipe out the footprints. So the Quraysh couldn't follow the footprints and find the Prophet ﷺ. They made so many plans. They made so many plans. The question arises, why did he make so many plans when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guaranteed him protection? Why? To teach us. The sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ is an example for us to follow. So we follow that example. For the deen, we plan. We don't leave it to chance. We plan. The result is in the hands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Again, at the Battle of Badr, Rasulullah planned the Battle of Badr. He told people where to stand. They made a plan to take the wells outside of the reach of the Quraysh. And then Rasulullah prayed and prayed and prayed, and Abu Bakr Siddiq said, enough praying. Enough praying. And what we learn from this is Rasulullah made plans as if Allah wasn't going to help him. And then he made dua as if he made no plans. He made plans as if nobody was going to help him except himself. And then he made dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to help me as if he had made no plans himself. So we are responsible for what we do. And there are example after example after example. When Salah ad-Din liberated Palestine, did he say Imam Mahdi is going to come? Isa bin Maryam is going to come, alayhi salam, and liberate Palestine, or did he do it? And the funny thing is, and I will narrate to you the hadith in a minute. The funny thing is, when Dajjal is coming closer and closer to Imam Mahdi, that morning, Imam Mahdi gathers all the believers with him, and they are ready to fight. They're prepared to fight the Dajjal. They're ready to fight the Dajjal. And they are about to pray Salatul Fajr. And then Isa alayhi salam comes. We didn't find Imam Mahdi saying to his people, look, there's no need to prepare for battle. Isa alayhi salam is going to come and he's going to destroy the Dajjal. So why should we bother? Even Imam Mahdi, who knew Isa alayhi salam is coming, even he doesn't take that excuse. So what right do we have to say we don't need to do anything because Isa alayhi salam is going to come and fix all our problems? Okay, so let's come to the subject at hand. When we look at these hadith, and narrations about Isa, the return of Isa alayhi salam, it actually refutes some of the misconceptions that we have. It refutes some of the misconceptions that we have. Now there's a hadith. Abu Dawud also published from Salama with a narration behind this hadith. And he said, there will be a disagreement at the death of a Khalifa. There will be a disagreement at the death of a Khalifa. So a man from Medina will come out, fleeing to Mecca. There's problems in the Ummah. A Khalifa has died and a dispute has arisen. Who's going to be a Khalifa? And a man flees from Medina because of all the turmoil and he comes to Mecca. And he will come and make tawaf around the Kaaba. And the people of Mecca will come to him and nominate him against his will and swear allegiance to him between the corner of the Kaaba and between the corner of the black stone and the maqam of Ibrahim alayhi salam. So there's a dispute in the Ummah. A Khalifa has died. There's a dispute who should be the next Khalifa. This turmoil. And this man flees from Medina to Mecca. And when he comes to Mecca, the people of Mecca recognize that, this man is Imam Mahdi. And they tell him, you are the Mahdi. We will give you the bay'ah. We will make you the Khalifa. What do we learn from this? We learn that even Imam Mahdi doesn't know that he's Imam Mahdi. Imam Mahdi doesn't come to Makkah and say, I am the Mahdi, give me your bay'ah. Imam Mahdi doesn't know he's the Mahdi, and he has to be told and explained and proved that you are Mahdi. Then he accepts the bay'ah. Unlike the people are found on Google knowing when he was born and where he lives. Imam Mahdi himself doesn't know that. So from the hadith, we find that he flees from Medina to Mecca, and the people tell him, you are the Mahdi. And he accepts. Then a military force will be sent against him from Ash-Sham. So when this happens, that this man in Mecca, who is Imam Mahdi, is appointed the Khalifa, the people in Syria don't like this. The people in Syria are not happy. So they send an army to crush this new Khalifa. And this army will be sent. And on the way to Mecca, some reports say there will be an earthquake or some other phenomena, but the ground will open up and swallow the army. And when this happens, everybody now knows that this is one of the signs. And everybody then accepts that Imam Mahdi is the Khalifa. And then people accept him. And he is now the undisputed Amir of the Muslims. And then people from Ash-Sham will come and pledge allegiance and give bay'ah. People from Iraq will come, pledge allegiance and give bay'ah. Then a man of Quraysh will rise in rebellion, whose maternal uncles are from the tribe of Kalb, and an expeditionary force will be sent against them all, and they will all be conquered. So when another rebellion arises, Imam Mahdi sends a group of people to fight them. And that is the expeditionary force of Qalb, and there is disappointment for whoever does not attend the division of the spoils of Qalb, saying that those who didn't join the army to fight with Imam Mahdi against these people, afterwards they will regret it. And they will regret it because they have missed out on all the spoils. Meaning after this battle, a lot of wealth will be taken as ghanima by the Muslims. So he will divide up the wealth, and he will act among people according to the Prophet's Sunnah, and he will throw Islam by its neck on the earth, and he will remain for 7 years. So this happens at the time of Imam Mahdi, and when Isa alayhi salam comes, he will remove all the other disbelievers. Now, something we learn from this. The very first point I mentioned. A dispute arises amongst the people in Medina and amongst the Muslims after the death of a Khalifa. What does that tell you? That tells you that even before Imam Mahdi comes, the Khilafah of the Muslim has been established. It tells you that before Imam Mahdi comes, the Ummah has united behind an Imam, a Khalifa, and they are establishing the rule of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And it implies that after a number of khulafa, a dispute will arise after the death of one of them, who should be the next Khalifa. That's when Imam Mahdi comes. So this misconception that is amongst some people, that the Khilafah will only come when Imam Mahdi comes, when Isa alayhi salam comes, the hadith actually contradicts that. The hadith says that the Khilafah will exist. And after the establishment of the Khilafah, will a dispute arise where Imam Mahdi will come to resolve it. And who is it that will establish the Khilafah? It's not Isa alayhi salam because he hasn't come yet. It's not Imam Mahdi because it existed before he came. It is the ordinary people of this ummah that will establish it. The ordinary, fallible Muslims of this ummah that will establish the Khilafah before the coming of Imam Mahdi. And Imam Mahdi will not receive any revelation when he comes. Where will he learn his religion from? Where will he learn his deen from? He will learn it from the ulama, from the ummah of that time. Now, when Imam Mahdi arises, the ummah reunites, gets invigorated, and the ummah again the heart in the ummah starts to pump. And the Muslim lands become to join, and it becomes strong. It is then when the news of Dajjal comes. This is when the news of Dajjal comes. And in a long hadith narrated in Sahih Muslim by Abu Hurairah, it is mentioned that the fitna of Dajjal and the power of the illusions that he will have to confuse the Muslims, it also mentions the descent of Isa alayhi salam. So what happens? There's a lot of details about Dajjal, but I'm not going to focus on that because that in itself will take a lot of time. I'm just going to focus on the return of Isa alayhi salam. Like the swarm, when driven by the wind, this is about Dajjal. He will come to a people and he will call them to his worship, and they will believe in him and accept his call. Dajjal will order the sky to rain, and it will rain. And the land, and he will order the land to grow, and the land will grow. Vegetation. Their cattle will return to them with their hair the longest, and their udders the fullest with milk, and their stomachs the fattest. Meaning the animals will regain health, and they will produce more meat, and they will produce more milk than ever before. This is when Dajjal comes to them. He will come to a different people and will call them to his worship, and they will reject him. So Dajjal goes to some people and they reject him. They said, no, we don't want to believe in you. Now, the hadith doesn't say there's Muslims. It could be that some non-Muslims say to Dajjal, we're not going to believe in you. And he will then leave them. And they will wake up in the morning destitute, missing all their possessions. He will pass by a deserted land and he will say to it, bring out your treasures. And its treasures will follow him just like the swarms of bees. He will summon a man full of youth and will strike him with a sword once and will cut him in 2 pieces, and he will fall dead. And he will call the dead man and he will come, and the face will be radiant, pleasure and laughter. In summary, Dajjal will go to certain lands and ask the people to believe in him. If they believe in him, suddenly the economy is booming. When he tells the skies to rain, they rain. And those people that don't follow him, they suddenly become poor and destitute. He even kills a man and brings him back to life. So Dajjal is full of tricks. Dajjal is full of power in inverted commas. And he's able to fool many people. And many people in the world follow him. Many hadiths talk about him flying from one land to another in big birds made of steel. Well, the hadith talks about this, meaning what we today would say aeroplane. Some people even speculate that, how can he make land grow? They said, well, maybe he's got genetically modified seeds. Because with genetically modified seeds, if you put them in a land, they will grow, but they will destroy other seeds. So, he could have these powers. However he does it, Allahu Alam. But he has this ability. But what do Muslims say? Dajjal, it's okay, we've been told about it. Dajjal will have one eye. Because one eye will be like a grape and he will see through one eye. And Dajjal will have kafir written on his forehead. And we say, alhamdulillah, we'll recognize him. We recognize Dajjal. There's no problems for us Muslims when we see a man with one eye doing some tricks with kafir written on his forehead. That's the man. We've got to be careful of. But you know, brothers, don't be too sure. Don't be too sure that you'll be able to recognize him. Because today, how many Muslims fall into the traps of the kuffar without realizing? How many? Before Tony Blair went to bombard Iraq and bring slaughter to Iraq, we had Muslim leaders in 10 Downing Street pledging their support to him. Were they not fooled? Could they not recognize that what this man was going to do was against Islam and Muslims? There was a British delegation of imams that went to Afghanistan with the British army to tell the Afghans that the British are not your enemy. Were they not fooled? And these imams know more about the deen than me and you. Some of these people are fairly learned in the deen. They know more about Islam than me and you. They were fooled. So don't be too sure that when Dajjal comes, we'll all recognize him. It's only those who have proper iman will recognize him. And Rasulullah even taught us something to protect us. He said, memorize Surah Kahf. If you memorize Surah Kahf, Dajjal cannot touch you. And Rasulullah said, if you can't memorize the whole of the Surah Kahf, memorize the first 10 ayat or the last 10 ayat. And each generation of Muslims teaches their children this and so on and so forth. And the Imams tell us this. Why? Because when Dajjal comes, we don't know. So be prepared. We should all be prepared as if he's going to come in our generation. Because the Sahaba thought that Dajjal was going to come in their generation. And the stories amongst the Sahaba, they actually thought that one of the Jews was Dajjal. One of the Jews was Dajjal. And Umar al-Faruq radiallahu anhu said to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, I think that man is the Dajjal. And the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said to Umar al-Faruq that if he is the Dajjal, there's no point you trying to kill him because you can't kill him. But don't worry because I am amongst you. So even the Sahaba thought this is an imminent thing. We need to be ready. So this is the same attitude we should have. The Dajjal could come anytime. He could come anytime. So now, many people are deceived by Dajjal. Many people around the world are deceived by Dajjal. Many Muslims are deceived by Dajjal. Some people will go to fight Dajjal and after they see his magic, they will believe in him. So the group of real believers starts to diminish. This is when Imam Mahdi gathers the believers ready for a fight. He gathers the believers ready for a fight. He has 800 men and 400 women. And at the time of Fajr, they get ready. And whilst they are getting ready, something's happening outside. It says in one hadith that Isa a.s. will descend close to the white minaret in the east of Damascus. He will be wearing a garment lightly covered, coloured with saffron, meaning a yellowish kind of a garment. And his hands will be placed on the wings of 2 angels, according to some hadith. Whenever he lowers his head, droplets fall. And whenever he raises his head, precious stones that look like pearls fall from the head of Isa alayhi salam. And he comes from the sky for everybody to witness. So whilst Imam Mahdi is in the masjid, getting ready for Fajr, getting ready for war, Isa alayhi salam is descending outside. Back in the masjid. He will descend on a jama'ah that will be righteous at the time and comprising 800 men and 400 women. The people will be preparing for war at the time against Dajjal. It will be time for Fajr and Imam Mahdi will be the Amir. From the darkness of the dawn, a sound will suddenly be heard. This is what's going on outside, which I just explained. One who listens to your pleas has come. This is a shout. One who listens to to your pleas has come, meaning the dua you have been asking for, the person you've been asking for has come. And the righteous people will look everywhere and the eyes will fall on Isa alayhi salam. Briefly, at the time of Fajr, Isa alayhi salam will descend. And when descending, his hands will be on the shoulders of two angels. Some hadith say on the wings, some hadith say on the shoulders. And Hazrat Isa alayhi salam will introduce himself. And he will inquire about the enthusiasm and the thoughts on jihad against Dajjal. He will be pleased that the believers are getting ready to fight Dajjal. And Isa alayhi salam will descend on the eastern side near the minaret in Damascus and Baytul Maqdis. Or in Baytul Maqdis. When Isa alayhi salam descends, the Muslims are getting ready for Fajr. The Iqamah has been given. And between the Iqamah being given and the namaz being started, the salah being started, Isa alayhi salam descends. And everybody sees him. And now there's a whole buzz in the masjid. Their hearts are lifted, their spirits are lifted, that Dajjal is finished now. Allah has sent us the help. And people will say to Isa alayhi salam, lead the salah. Lead the salah. And Isa alayhi salam will say, no. The iqamah has been given to your leader. Because he's the Khalifa. And Isa alayhi salam will line up with the ordinary Muslims in the saf behind Imam Mahdi. And he will pray Salatul Fajr behind Imam Mahdi. To me this is so symbolic. To me this is so symbolic that it says that Isa alayhi salam made a dua to return in the ummah of Muhammad, and he has returned in the ummah of Muhammad like me and you. We stand behind the imam and we pray salah. Isa alayhi salam made a dua for something we take for granted. He just wanted to be in the ummah of Muhammad. Oh, here we are. Here we are. He actually didn't say, I want to be the leader of the ummah of Muhammad, because the leader of the ummah of Muhammad is Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam, and his Khalifa, meaning the successor of the Prophet. Khalifa means successor of the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam. So Imam Mahdi lines up behind the Khalifa and prays the Salatul Fajr. Now, another line of story is that a short while after that, Imam Mahdi passes away. Isa alayhi salam does his janazah, and then Isa alayhi salam becomes the Khalifa after that. And some narrations say he lived for 7 years, some say more than that. So Isa alayhi salam comes. Now, after the completion of Salatul Fajr, Isa alayhi salam will open the door behind him. And there, when he opens the door, outside will be Dajjal and 70,000 Yahudis. 70,000 Yahudis. And he will indicate with his hand to move away between him, Hazrat Isa, and Dajjal. So we say to the people to move like this, move. Because when he sees Dajjal, that's enough. When he sees Dajjal, that is enough. And Dajjal we see Isa alayhi salam. At that time, every kafir on whom the breath of Isa alayhi salam will reach will die. So when the breath of Isa alayhi salam reaches disbelievers, they will die. And his breath will reach a distance of your eyesight, so as far as you can see. That's how far the breath of Isa alayhi salam will go. The Muslims will then come down from the mountains. So there will be other believers who have been taking sanctuary in mountains and hiding. When they hear of this, they too will come down. And all of them together will now pursue the Dajjal. Isa alayhi salam will have two swords, and with his shield, and a shield with him. And he will go and kill Dajjal at the gate of Hud. And then he will bring the sword back and show it to the Muslims with the blood of Dajjal dripping on it. And after this, there are many other narrations about Rasulullah will break the cross and kill the pig. And after this, there is no more jihad. And then after this, there is no more jizya. There is no more jihad. Why? Because after this, there will be no more disbelievers. People will enter into Islam. So there is no need for jihad anymore, and there is no need for jizya. And peace will descend on this earth. Now, I'm just going to quickly summarize, there's lots of points, but let me just quickly summarize some of the blessings that will descend on the ummah with the arrival of Isa alayhi salam. Isa alayhi salam, you know, people said Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is the last prophet. Well, hold on a second. After Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Isa alayhi salam has come. So how can Muhammad be the last prophet? Isa alayhi salam, when he returns, he doesn't return in the capacity of a prophet. He returns in the capacity of a ummati of Muhammad, a follower of Muhammad. So he will instruct the people in the Quran and the Sunnah. He will not bring any new revelation. In the hadith, it says, those people who are close to Isa, it says, those who will save the deen of Islam by associating themselves with Hadrat Isa alayhi salam will be among the most loved by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. During this period, all religions will perish except Islam. And everybody will be a Muslim. There will be no disbelievers. There will be no jihad, as I mentioned. There will be no kharaj. There will be no jizya. And wealth and property will be in surplus. People's wealth will increase. Economies will boom. So much so that there will be nobody there to take charity. Receiving zakat and sadaqah will be discarded, as there will be no poor people left to give it to. They say that people will love to do sajda more than all the wealth that exists in the world. Because now people know that their days are running short. Now we are going to meet Allah. Allah is going to wrap up the universe. So naturally everybody's mind is now focused on the akhirah. So the love of the dunya is gone from their hearts. And even it says that some of the blessings, that peace and harmony will come during the time of Isa amongst all people. There will be no hatred, no jealousy, no backbiting, no evilness amongst the people. They say that even the venom in the snakes will be taken away. And in some hadith it says the children will play with snakes. The lions will walk with the sheep. The lions will walk with the sheep. There will be so much peace, Allah will descend on this earth, that even those predator animals will live in peace. Snakes and scorpions will not harm anyone. The wild animals will not harm anyone. And if a man passes a lion, he will not be troubled or harmed. Or even if any girl if any girl will open its mouth to test, it will do nothing. So even a little child, a little girl puts her head in the lion will not bite it. And the camels will graze amongst the lions. And there's many lists of these things. And there's also many things that happen after this, which is the coming of Ya'juj and Ma'juj, and how they now start to bring trouble again to the earth. And then Isa alayhi salam goes with the believers to the top of a mountain and Allah destroys them. And then it rains and it cleans the whole earth of this filth. There's lots of details. But then after Isa alayhi salam gets married and lives a normal life and dies a normal death, after this, the ummah starts to decline till there are no believers and Allah wraps up the whole universe. So there's a lot of detail in that. But to conclude, when will the future come? When will Imam Mahdi, Isa alayhi salam come? When will Dajjal come? There's no point looking on Google because no one knows. No one knows. But just like the Sahaba were informed before about the victory of Islam, that didn't stop them from fulfilling their responsibility. You know the time when the Muslims were on the brink of disaster? They were on the brink of disaster when all the Arabs came to destroy Medina, and the Muslims dug one little trench. And there was mountains on the sides and forests, so the Quraysh could only come from the front, so they dug a little trench and they waited behind it. And they were fearful. And the Jews committed treason. And the Munafiqeen started to play games, and the Muslims were in a very difficult situation. And it's a long story, I'm not going to go into it, but the point is Rasulullah told them about that you will conquer Persia and Rome. Did the Sahaba say, oh that's brilliant, MashaAllah, we're going to conquer Rome. You know what? Tools down, let's go home. No. Allah's telling you what's going to happen, but how is it going to happen? It's because you make it happen. You make it happen. That's why it's going to happen. It's your good deeds that make these things happen. If you become lazy, then you delay what may or may not happen. The good deeds happen because you make it happen. You know when you watch a football match live, you know the score at the end, isn't it? If you play the recording of the game again, you might like to watch Man City beat Man United 6-1. Yeah? Or maybe some other game, like Basel. Or games like that you like to watch. At the end, you know what the score is. You have that knowledge, but when you watch the game, it's your knowledge doesn't force those people to do those things. It's those people who play the game make that thing happen. It's just that you have knowledge of it afterwards, isn't it? So when you watch a replay, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has that knowledge before things happen, because He has knowledge of all things. So it's not that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling you something like, don't do anything, this is what's going to happen. No, this is what happens because of what you people do. So when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave good news to the messenger, and the messenger gave good news to the Sahaba, they saw that as a motivation to do good actions. Why? Because if we strive, Allah will reward us with what He's promised us. So just like the Sahaba overcame difficulties, we too need to overcome that difficulty. Just like we know Isa alayhi salam will come, will mean we have to struggle to bring back the authority to this ummah. Because the hadith says the ummah will be united behind the Khalifa before Imam Mahdi comes, before Isa alayhi salam comes. So these stories that we talk about, they are not mere stories for entertainment. They are stories to learn lessons from, and to take heed, and to take advice, because this deen is advice. This deen is advice. So when we talk about these things, it's not for entertainment. It's for us to take heed and to take advice and think about where we are going to end up. And what we need to do to avoid a disastrous end like Dajjal's end. So we as Muslims must act and fulfill our responsibilities. Whether it's earning money to provide for our needs, or whether it's for the sake of the akhirah, we need to struggle for this. Now Rasulullah gave a beautiful hadith about this need to struggle. That Allah will give you results. He is the one who gives. But we are the one who asks. And we are the ones who struggle. He gave a hadith about the bird. He goes, if you trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah will provide for you like He provides food for a bird. Like a bird flies out of the nest, comes back with a full stomach. Allah will provide. What does that hadith mean? Does it mean do nothing? No. That bird flies from the nest. All day the bird is flying looking for food. All day the bird is looking for worms. All day it's flying around. And at the end of the day, spending the whole day looking for food, it comes back with a full stomach. The bird didn't just sit in the nest and get fed automatically. The bird had to struggle. And if a bird has to struggle, we too need to struggle for Allah's victory and for Allah's help. وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد والحمد لله رب العالمين.
Jazakallah khair. Inshallah, Maghrib is fast approaching, so we'll have the opportunity to answer some questions. Paper and pens are going around, so if you would like to write your questions down, we'll then group them and answer them, inshallah. But probably looking at about 3 to 4 questions before we conclude. Jazakallah khair. Actually, Shakil?
Okay, for the singer today. First of all, I mentioned about Isa being very basic and very simple in his lifestyle and his belongings. So like what brother said to me, you sell your car, live in the most basic of accommodation, live in the most, drive the most basic car, give your money in Allah's way. What would you suggest to that?
Yeah. Isa alayhi salam was said to a people that had the love for the dunya, and they were so attached to it. And if you see the example of Isa, or all of the Anbiya before Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the people were a certain type. But when we look at the example of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, what we find is that he had a bit of everything, and this is what he taught us. So when it comes to the dunya, and when it comes to seeking the worldly things, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam has showed in his example that you need to strive in those things and be successful in those things to the best of your ability, keeping in mind that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has sent you on this earth and you have a responsibility. Always having that in mind, and you're going to go back to the akhirah. This is what you need to have in mind throughout your period in this dunya. So when we look at Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he traded. When we look at the Rasulullah companions, they traded. They had a life outside of the da'wah as well. So when I spoke about struggle and I spoke about sacrifice, I mentioned that as soon as we mention the word struggle, we automatically associate it with not having things. So when we say struggle, we picture a person who doesn't have any money, who doesn't have, a nice car, a nice house, who doesn't have any of the worldly things. But that doesn't mean it will be the case. It could be that you might sacrifice these things as a result of working for this deen. But that doesn't mean you won't have these things. So the important point is to be balanced and to work in this dunya in the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and to work in the halal things, but not to give the akhirah away for those things, and to keep that in mind the whole time. So it's the balanced view that we need to have, inshallah.
Okay, any other questions?
Shall I just speak?
Yeah, come on.
Inshallah. You mentioned when Isa comes, everyone's going to be Muslim and there's going to be no more jizya. Is it mentioned in any of the hadith that are authentic? Whether that's because all the non-believers accept Islam, or is it because they're no longer on the earth because they've been put to the sword?
From what I recall, reading the hadith, when Isa alayhi salam comes, there's no more concept of Ahl Dhimma. Right? Jizya is paid by Ahl Dhimma. Ahl Dhimma are those non-Muslims that live under the authority of Islam. Isa alayhi salam will not give the option to the disbelievers. You cannot, either you become Muslim or you die, or you fight. So after a period of time, there will be no more disbelievers. So it means that they either become Muslim or they die, or they killed. So after that period, there will be no more Muslims left. But the point is that there will be disbelievers when Isa alayhi salam comes, but they can't remain as non-Muslims in an Islamic state.
The next question is, can you give the hadith stating that there will be an Islamic state before the Mahdi and the reference, please?
The hadith I quoted is, the chain of narration is Abu Dawud. It's in Abu Dawud, and it's narrated by Salama. And it says here, by way of Salih Abu Khalil, from a companion of his form, Salama. Yeah, from Salama. I haven't got the hadith number or the actual reference, but it's from Abu Dawud. If you need the exact reference, we can get that to you.
Yeah, please, whoever asks this question, just come to the front, give us your details, and we'll feed that back, inshallah. And in fact, we can post it on our Facebook entry as well, so that way it's available for everyone, inshallah. What I'll do, we're approaching Maghrib very quickly. I'll leave it to one last question. It said, you said the people of Syria sent an army to kill Imam Mahdi, but they lived under the Khilafah. But how can the people have that mindset, i.e. to kill an innocent person while they lived under the Khilafah?
You see, when Imam Mahdi flees from Medina to Mecca, the hadith paints a picture of discord and problems. The people are not happy. So I get the impression that a lot of people are claiming that we want to be caliphs, and people are not agreed on that. So when Imam Mahdi goes to Mecca, the people of Mecca convince him that you are the Mahdi. And he is convinced by that, so then he grudgingly accepts the bay'ah. And a very few people giving bay'ah initially, just the people of Mecca. The people in the surrounding areas are not convinced by that, are not happy with that. And they send an army. And the hadith talks about the land opening up and the army being swallowed. Then they accept. So at that point, the people of Syria are not happy. They said, look, we never give bay'ah. We never agreed to this. And the thing is, you're going to have disputes. I mean, we had disputes at the time of when Ali radiallahu anhu was Khalifa. There was a dispute with Muawiyah. Because people can have disagreements and it can lead to violence and problems. It's a human thing. So just because somebody lives under the Khilafah, they're not angels, they're not masoom. You're not free from error. You can make mistakes, you can commit sin. People will do that. Even at the time of Prophet ﷺ in Medina, people committed sin. I mean, you have the worst of people living in Medina that I don't think we even have today. And that's the munafiqeen, who actually pretended to be Muslims, but secretly they will meet and plan to kill the Prophet ﷺ. So just because you're a Muslim doesn't mean, you're in the Jannah club, and it doesn't mean that you are free from making mistakes. We are not masoom. You could get deviated, you could have a misunderstanding, you could have a different idea, and it could lead to problems. And this is what happened. But after the major sign comes, then they will believe. And they will fall into line behind Imam Mahdi.